need a gift, and I need that gift at 6 o'clock in the morning. And it is 1:20 the night before I need the gift. The problem, I'm a quilter. What do quilters give as gifts? I know, I'm crazy, right? Many of you know that I swim 3 days a week at 6 a.m. in the morning. Well, one of our good friends, and she's in the lane right next to me, is Maricela. Maricela is moving to Tennessee. Oh, and it's happening so fast. So tomorrow morning is a going away party for Maricela. The good news is this video won't go up until she leaves, so I can say whatever I want on it. Maricela loves color. She loves water. She loves ocean. She loves the ocean. She's from Mexico. She loves the beach. I happen to have this. You recognize it from my last video. It's the Quilt Challenge quilt that I did with Tracy and April at QuiltCon. Well, the problem, it's square. I hate a square quilt. But I thought, you know, nobody will notice it's square. So I said to Blue Block, who swims with me, we need to make Maricela a quilt. And she goes, yes, we do. I said, what about the one I just finished? It's all done. I just have to quilt it and bind it. And you know what she said? I love that quilt, but it's square. I was caught. She dang caught me. Here's what I have. Look at this. I have all of these leftover scraps from the quilt, and I'm going to pull a Tracy, which means there'll be a border on the top and a border on the bottom. Now, what kind of border, might you ask? I don't know. In looking at the quilt, it's got triangles on it. And what I did was draw out 2 quick borders, called up Blue Block and said, what do you think of these borders? And she said, what time is it? And she called me Diane. When she's irritated with me, that's what she calls me. Anyway, I said, well, it's about 1:30, 1:20. She goes, you don't have time to do that beautiful triangle border. It will take too much time. So what I'm going to do is use all of these scraps, and I'm going to make a scrappy piano key border to put on the top and one on the bottom with some of the aqua, and maybe, just maybe, this is all from Blue Block's stash and it's yardage. So I'm thinking it would be cute to do kind of a cool border. It's going to be a fun challenge. Now, Michelle has got the long arm vacated. She's done quilting for the day, just waiting for this quilt to go on. We'll get it quilted, and you know what? I can do a binding in my sleep. I'm so fast at it. This video isn't really about doing a Speedy Gonzales quilt. It's more about working with what you have. Now, I want to show you something else that I bought for it. Da, 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 da. Check out this backing. Isn't it beautiful? And here's the other side. I bought 2.5 yards. It's 108. I think it is gorgeous. And I think it's going to fit Maricela's love of color. I mean, it's going to be beautiful Kaffe on one side. And this is called Dragonfly Dance. It's distributed by Northcott. I think it is a gorgeous backing. So I better get going, right? Let's get busy on a scrappy border that's piano key. So Blue Block talked me into a scrappy piano key border, which would be a slam dunk. But here's what I have tons of. I have tons of these squares in the background fabric, and I have piles of these half square triangles that are already cut, of how I cut it up. It just seems that I need to do a row of half square triangles, right? And then look what else I have. So Be It Quilts. This is her 4.5-inch square up ruler. And I can just put this on. These are so fast to use. You can have a 4.5-inch square, half square triangle, and I'll just line them up. I think that would be so cute. Then maybe with a scrappy strip of the Kaffe on top and on the bottom. What do you think? I'm gonna do it, all right? I'm gonna do it. And I will start by chain piecing these. Do you notice that I'm using a different machine? Juki seized up. Well, this is a Juki, but it's my DX7. You may ask why I'm saving this quilt to the last minute to do. That's because I've been sick. Had the nasty flu and it wasn't fun, but I'm back. This is a great little sewing machine. It does zigzag and I do love it. However, it doesn't sew as fast as all, but it's got presser foot lift, as you can see. That is 18 times 4, or that's going to be 4 inches. That'll be 72 wide, and my quilt is 62 wide, so I need probably 16 more HSTs. You know the saying, necessity is the mother of invention? Look what I had in my scrap pile. These are left over from the original quilt, and I just laid 2 on there. So what I'm going to do is sew these 2 on there, cut them down the middle. Not bad. And I had just enough. In fact, I did this one on a bigger scrap. So I'll iron these back, and there's 3. So I'm gonna get all of the HSTs that I need. You know what? I'm out of thread. I got to the end. This spool is empty. I'm literally using old thread. I'm just using what I have, and I think this is going to turn out absolutely beautiful. I just need to slow down. Everything will be all right, correct? Okay, back to the grindstone. First thing I'm going to cut are my half square triangles apart, and definitely going to use a rotary cutter on these. Those go to the iron, and these get cut in 1.5-inch wide strips. Looking good. We'll get some of this cut for our horizontal strip border. That's probably plenty. Let's see what we can do with these big triangles. There's some, and here is some more. This is called the some more cut. Just kidding, of course. And this one last piece will take a few 1.5-inch strips off of. You know, you can never have enough Kaffe, right? I am going to press these to the colored side. I don't know if it really matters. They'll all be pressed the same direction, however, by pressing to the colored side. Did I tell you that Laura Starr is going to be at the 3 AMIGAS quilt retreat? If you've ever wanted to try before you buy, that will be your chance. And there's other irons there as well. There will be plenty of irons. You know, I took a lot of pictures at QuiltCon and I've never put them in a video. I was actually going to make a video with everything I'd taken, and I ended up getting sick for a couple of days. It set me back. So I am going to include them, some of them, in the video right now. Now that was a fun break, wasn't it? Back to squaring up these blocks I go. This is the slickest ruler. It's called a trim lock. There's a line on it. I'm lining it up right on the side. I'm gonna take both sides off, twist it right on my mat, and bada bing, bada boom. It is trimmed up, except I missed my corner. This will go through these blocks in no time. You can get this on sobeitquilts.com. I have the entire set. I love them. Let's see how it works on pansies. Oh, I'm being silly now, aren't I? So far, so good. Super simple to use, and my half square triangles are going to be squared up before you know it. Generally, in the past, I have squared them up when they were still folded. This is really kind of fun to do, and it's much easier. So I have my stack of 4.5-inch squares. I have my pile of 1.5-inch strips, and I am just going to start sewing them together. So I think it's going to be very cool. When I sew them together, I don't want them to be wonky, and it's going to be really easy to make them wonky. What I'm doing is taking extra care to line them up on this side and this side because I'm going to make the seam on the little short side. I will just take 2 at a time, put them together, and then I'll put those together. So I've got a square end on each of them and they seem to be lining up very nicely. Isn't this pretty? I just love Kaffe. Look, it's a big smile. 4 of them together is 16 inches. I just have to take my end measurement, which is 62 inches, divided by 16, and that will tell me how many I need. Very little quilt math, harmless quilt math, so I know when to stop sewing. This is my last strip. Time to measure. This has been a total shoot from the hip video. I'm throwing stuff up that's not in the pattern. Kind of my style. I do a little too much. But let me show you what I ended up with for the border to lengthen the top. I did this. So I have the pieces all pieced together, and then as you can see, I put a bottom strip below, the bottom strip of the background, which I think looks really nice. And I'm going to have it like this, but it won't lean over onto the ceiling. I have my quilt pinned up too high. I have 16 of these half square triangles going across the border. And there is about this much, which is about 2 inches, too much of an overhang. And I was not about to cut it off because it would look like it's cut off, right? So I did the next best thing. So I came up with 1 1/4 inches, and I'm going to sew that on this side. And it is 62 inches long because that's how long my quilt is. Then when that is sewn on the side, I'm going to sew this one on the top. Monticello is going to love it, I know. And I want to show you what I'm doing with the bottom because it has a different border. Oh, just kidding. It's the same border. It's just upside down. So I'm going to have one border go up and one border go down. And I'm going to get started on this right now. I had a long talk with my DIL and my daughter Michelle while I was putting these borders together. And I want to report to you that it is 6 o'clock, so I'm probably a little behind. I was going a little slow because I don't get to talk to them all the time. Love talking to them. When you put a border on, you want to make sure it's going to fit. So what I'm going to do is fold it in the middle, find the center, and stick a pin in it. And I'm going to do the same thing to the quilt. Now the 2 edges are already marked, and this is the edge that I'm putting it on. Did you see this? I did this when I finished the quilt. I mark it so I don't have to continually measure it. But I can take this out and toss it now. I'm being very gentle not to stretch because these setting triangles are on the bias. So there's my center right there. And then I'm going to pin this on in the center, take it to the end and pin it on. Then we make sure it fits in the middle. So I don't stretch it tight. I just go a little bit taut, lay it down, and it fits like a glove. Then we'll stitch that on. Then I can do the beautiful Kaffe borders. The good news about this, when I have these on, I won't have to deal with the bias anymore, which is going to be nice. There's a little extra in here, little extra fullness on the bias side of the quilt. So I'm just going to lay it down on the table like that, push everything flat, and then pin it down. It's a little trick I learned. You don't want to keep it in your hands when you can lay it down. And if it's on the bottom, the stuff on the top will kind of push it down. That is a good looking border, if you ask me. Time to sew this puppy on. I'm going to get to the iron, press this open, then I'm going to see how good I measured and put my top and bottom borders on. You know what I realized I forgot? Whoop! I made all of these scrappy borders. I'm going to add a scrappy border on because I have it. I put the work in. I'm making all of the borders so far at 1.5 inches, so they end up at 1 inch. So this is another way to do a border. It's the wrong way. So far I've shown you 2 ways to attach a border. One is to make the border the same dimensions as the length of your quilt. Now, I know this quilt was 62 inches and I measured it in 3 different places. I always measure my quilt in the center and on each edge. And then you make your border. You saw how easily that fit, and I just pinned it right on. And then you match your border to that, marking the center, and it comes out perfect. Then this is, I'm doing the wrong way to do a border. So the wrong way to do a border is to put a border on, to pin it from, it's just like make a little bit extra and just pin that puppy on. And you know why you don't want to do it this way? Because people pull and make it tight and they end up stretching it. And literally when I get your quilt, if you've done this, I can tell you've done it when I put it on my long arm and your quilt is long on the side you've stretched it on. It's longer. I'm thinking I'm above that. Not really, I'm not. I want to hurry and I don't want to waste this scrappy border that I spent time sewing. So I am just going to pin it on and cut off the end of it. And I'm literally laying it on, not doing any stretching at all. I think I may be able to do that. If you can do that without stretching it, I would say go for it. If you cannot, don't do it. You will hate borders and they will hate you. And your long armor will know what you've been doing. No, we're not the quilt police, but we know. Okay, I'm going to do the other side, the bottom, and I'm going to cheat and do it the same way. Sorry guys, I'm human and I have to cheat once in a while. So I've got these set up. So there's a strip here. So that's how the border is going to look. Won't that look nice? This is cut to length, correct? So I am going to find the center on this and on the quilt like I'm supposed to. I think I should have a little bit of a ta-da. This is my top and bottom border done. I believe there will be enough of this. There's a yard. I'm going to put a border around. I would leave it this way personally. I frankly like the more modern look, but you know what? We're gonna give it a border. Maricela would love it. First, I will measure 3 times across. Let's see how big it is, just for grins. 62 and a half, 62 in the middle. And you know what? I'm gonna have a hard time measuring because my sewing machine's in the way. I'll lay it down and measure it. By 74. So remember that, 62 by 74. Go right down the middle here. Woo! 74. Oh, 73. I'm making these side borders 74 inches. Then I'll measure the top. To figure this out, I have a yard. You know what? I'm going to be doing some quilt math. First off, right here, the quilt measured 62 and a half wide by 74 inches long. And this is the length here. I notice I did this so you could tell it was my quilt. the first thing I'm going to do is put these side strips on, and I haven't decided how wide I want them to be. I'm thinking 3 inches. That would be this wide, which is a nice size border. I'll have to cut it at 3.5 inches to make that 3-inch border, but I think a 3-inch border will look really nice. I could go up to 4 inches. I think I have enough to do 4 inches. Yeah, I have enough to do 4 inches, so I can do either a 3 or a 4-inch border, but I'll show you how I figured it out. I take these first 2 side pieces, and they are as long as the quilt is long. So they are 74 inches long. I don't have a width yet. What happens when I sew them on the sides, they're going to make this width wider. I take the measurement of 62.5 right here. And if I'm putting a 3-inch border on, I'm going to put it on both sides. That would be 6 inches, right? Because 3 and 3 are 6. So 62.5 plus 6 inches is 68.5 inches. So that changed this top border to 68 and the bottom border to 68, both of them to 68.5 inches. Now I want to see if I have enough fabric. I have a yard or 36 inches. So this is what you do. You take these numbers, 68.5 twice, 74 twice, and you add them up, and you get 285 inches. So this surround around here is 285 inches. Now, this is a whole piece of fabric, and it's 42 inches wide. So you always do this math like this. You take your 285 inches, divide it by 42.5 inch wide, and that is equal of 6.78. That tells me how many strips I need. If this number, is over 5, I round up. So I'm going to need 7 strips. And I divided that out. Then you take, I don't have this, but you take 36 inches. I can't write upside down, you guys, so don't expect it to. But the fabric is a yard, so that's 36 inches. So you take 36 inches and you divide it by 7. And, I didn't write this number down, but you get 5 something. So it tells me that I can put these strips up to 5 inches wide. Well, I don't want to put them 5 inches wide. I'm just going to make it 3.5 inches wide. So what I'm going to do is times 3.5 inches times 7, and I get 24 something inches, which is pretty cool because I have 36 inches. So I have plenty of fabric to cut 3 inches. I also, if I decide I want to make the quilt a 3.5 inch border, which is a little nicer, then I cut them at 4 inches. And if I go 7 times 4, that is 28. So that's 28 inches. I have 36 inches, so I have plenty. That's how I figure out if I have the amount of fabric I need to make the border. That is the basic of quilt math. Start figuring out your borders. It'll build your confidence. Before I figured this out and started doing this, I'm telling you, I was overwhelmed by it all. And I had the engineer doing all of this, because I just hate math, never paid attention, and don't do it well without a calculator. I was buying too much fabric, but now I can figure out my borders really easily by doing this method I just taught you. So if you're not doing it, start. You'll love yourself for it. Look how gorgeous this design. It's called Curling Waves. Maybe you can't see it very well on the backing, but here it is on the quilt. Do you remember when I told you I had bias issues and the quilt was crooked? Well, look at this. Yikes. that's going to be rough to quilt out, and I probably won't. I had some further pieces up on top that were as bad, almost worse, and they got starched. The starch will shrink it. It pulls the quilt a little straighter, and it's a little easier to quilt. But you know what? I goofed up on my time. It's 11 o'clock. I blame daylight savings time. I hate it, hate it, hate it. Because of daylight savings time, I thought I started this quilt at 1:30. No, it was 2:30. Because of daylight savings time, I kept looking at my clock thinking I was doing better. And then when I realized it was daylight savings time, oh, my body is dying. So actually it is 11:10. Looks like I have 2 more passes to do, and this is done. I'm going to make the binding tonight, and I don't think I'll be able to sew it on. We'll see what it's like. I'd have filmed more of me quilting the quilt, but because of stupid daylight savings time, I couldn't. But I will get it done before Marcella's going away party. I'm going to go ahead and finish this. I have 2 more rows to do. Then I'm done. I'll get it all trimmed up tonight. I'll get the binding made, but honestly, I don't know if I can do it without some shut-eye. I'll probably get up at 4 and put it on, and then I'll be done with it at 5, and then nap until 6. We'll see how that goes. And if I'm up that early, you'll know, because I'll be whispering so I don't wake the engineer. I would have showed you more, but honestly, I'm so exhausted I couldn't set everything up. I am so sorry. Guys, this is it. Can you believe it? Isn't it beautiful? Now, it doesn't have the binding on yet, but I'm going to do that, and it might be at 4 in the morning. And if I do, I am not going to film it. But let me get a little closer so you can see the quilting. What's this called, Michelle? Wait.
Curling waves?
Curling waves. I was going to call it waving wheat. I am so punchy tired. I can't believe it. It did come out really good. I'm so excited. It's going to be really fun when it's washed. Michelle, would you do a magic act? Flip it so they can see the backside.
You will cut this out, right?
My phone's down. I know. Check out that back. Whoa! Isn't that beautiful? That was a Northcott piece that I ran into, and I'm like thinking, oh my gosh, I want to buy a bolt of it just to keep it in my shop. I think it's gorgeous. We swim in the pool. We're water babies up there, and look at all the water on it. It's so gorgeous. And there's the quilting pattern up there. So what do you all think? My sewing room, I'm going to show you my sewing room. You can drop it, Michelle. I won't take pictures of you. My sewing room is absolutely a mess. Look, I just threw stuff on the floor. There's a pair of feet. Michelle made me promise I wouldn't get her. There's my broken machine I've got to take in. But I have to show you something fun that's in my sewing machine now. Or in my sewing room. Check it out. It's a Lego sewing machine. And if you look real close, it says Sewtopia on it. I love Sewtopia. They're a great store in Salt Lake City. Michelle put it together for me. We're kind of a Lego family, and it was one of my prizes from QuiltCon. I love it. Look at the buttons. Oh, here it's kind of dark, but you can see there's little dials and buttons, and they're not really sewing machine buttons, but it's Lego. What do you want? So if you want a Lego sewing machine, oh, and this is the best part. Look at the presser foot. Isn't that too cool? I think this is really awesome. So I'm going to get back to my messy sewing room. I'm going to clean it up this week, but literally that stuff is all from QuiltCon still. I haven't cleaned up. I've just been, but I'm super jazzed about this quilt. Oh, and by the way, this is the binding that I'm cutting for it. I'm going to sew it together, probably hit the hay, and get up at 4 a.m. and put it on so I can gift this quilt at 6 a.m. Nuts! I'm nuts, and I blame it on daylight savings time. So there's all kinds of goodbyes. This is the hot springs that I swim in. You guys hear about it in my videos. Anyway, we're all hanging out in our robes. Are we gonna do presents right now? Here is the, Maricela, everybody pitched in for this gift.
But,
And there's a card if you wanna read the card later, we've all signed it. If you wanna read it later, I'll turn the video off. So,
Oh, wow.
we know you like bright colors.
Wow.
Isn't that beautiful?
Finally, you make me one.
Uh-huh. Oh,
The other side.
open it all the way.
Oh, but keep it dry. Keep it dry. Oh, wow. Oh, look at the other side. Oh, it was so beautiful.
look at the back.
Oh, that's me. So me. Thank you.
So, you know what? Patricia was with me when I got the back Maricela, and she said, this is so Maricela, and it looks like water, since we're all water babies. Okay, and then you can take a look at the front,
Reminds you of us.
and it's quilted in a wave pattern.
My connection here in
If you look at them sideways, they didn't put the minky on the back because it's too hot.
Oh, I think we have a little tear.
Did everybody get a brownie? Because I'm going to send the rest to
They're very good.
Oh, they're sugar-free brownies? Oh, nice.
They don't taste sugar-free.
Anyway, so that's the reveal of the quilt. I'd like to thank you for watching my video today and going along with me on my crazy little journey. I am going to take a nap. As soon as I'm done with this, I'm out for a nap, I promise. First, I would like to thank 3 very special viewers who all sent me cups of tea to support my channel. And I thank you so much. I appreciate all of you, but I want to give a shout out to those who support my channel with cups of tea. Vicky Schlagenhoff, thank you. And you wanted to know what kind of a 60-degree ruler I use. It is a Marti, M-A-R-T-I, Michelle. I really think any 60-degree ruler would work. What you want to do is make sure you get this dimension. I believe mine is 8 inches. And I'd like to thank my friend Ann Sipe. Thank you so much. And I can't believe we missed each other at QuiltCon. How crazy is that? Another time we'll meet, I promise. Then Mary Hurst. Mary, thank you for watching my channel. Thank you for being a loyal viewer. I'm glad you learn something every time. I kind of do too. So I appreciate all of you. I can't wait to get started on my next project, but I am going to get a nap in first. I will see you next week with, are you ready for this? Another scrappy project. Bye.